Welcome to the AniMoguls. Me llamo Megabucks.
Y me llamo Tycoon.
In Buffy the Vampire Slayer Showdowns, we're going to be talking about the on-screen rivalries between some of our favorite Buffy characters. On today's episode, it's Buffy versus Faith.
Now, they're both vampire slayers, so they have that in common, but the similarities end there.
Joss didn't want us viewers to have to struggle too hard, so he made Buffy a blonde and Faith a brunette, so everyone would know that Faith is evil and Buffy is good, because that's the way symbolism works.
Faith's got the dark clothing and dark lipstick. She also goes overboard with the eyeliner, so she looks like she's permanently been punched in both eyes. She also has heavy lids, which in Disney movie terms at least, is a sure sign of being evil. You have to be caked in makeup if you're gonna be evil. It's a prerequisite. You can't have a natural look like Buffy does.
So if Buffy is the good valley girl gone bad, Faith is the bad girl gone worse. Because she becomes a murderer when she accidentally kills a human being during a vampire raid.
Except so does Buffy. Remember that episode where Buffy murders her future stepfather? Well, they cop out because it turns out that Ted was actually a robot. But for all intents and purposes, she didn't know that. She killed him, you know?
At the time of the slaughter, Buffy thought he was a flesh and blood human being. So to me, it counts as murder. Now, unlike Buffy, Faith has no illusions about her humanity. Human or undead vampires, they're all the same to her. Faith's like, I killed them all. Faith's like Anakin. The women and the children too. That's what Faith's thinking.
Faith is kind of like Stefan from the Vampire Diaries, where one day her humanity just switches off like a light bulb. She's always been a bad girl, but then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I just don't care anymore. I would have liked it better if Buffy and Faith had a deeper friendship before Faith betrayed her. Because when Faith finally turns on Buffy, we're just like, well, who cares? Buffy should have been like,
well, Faith, you weren't really around. You kind of just showed up once in a while.
Buffy was never crazy about Faith. Her attitude was always like,
yeah, we have to have Faith around because she's been orphaned by her watcher or whatever.
Buffy's got the moral compass, so Buffy should have been the bigger person. She should have welcomed Faith into her life. Xander and Willow were so welcoming to Faith, but Buffy, she wasn't into that.
Buffy being jealous of Faith makes zero sense, because Faith could take over Buffy's role as the full-time Slayer. If the intro is to be believed, there's only one Slayer in all the world, so that means one of these two needs to retire. And we all know it should be Buffy, because Buffy spends most of her screen time complaining about how she wants a normal life. She doesn't want to be the Slayer. She sees the role as a burden, so just let Faith take over.
Yeah, Faith actually enjoys being the Slayer, and she's truly dedicated to her profession. I mean, she quit school so she doesn't have to do homework. She avoids making friends so they don't expect her to party at the Bronze every night. She's focused on being the very best Slayer she can be.
Unlike Buffy, who just wants to be popular, date Angel, and become homecoming queen. Loving her priorities, B.
I thought it was horrible how Faith used poor Xander. Shame on you, Faith. Now that was really evil. That was worse than when Faith killed that guy. Because we didn't even know who that guy was, but we know Xander. We know he has low self-esteem. And Faith basically gave Xander all this hope and then took it away from him.
Yeah, he thought they had a real connection. But it turned out she just wanted to get laid. She basically used Xander like Angel used Buffy. Because Angel slept with Buffy and then told her it was over between them the very next day. But Angel was turned evil against his will. And he's a vampire. Faith isn't even a vampire. She doesn't even have that excuse.
Buffy would never hurt Xander the way Faith did. Though she kinda does indirectly. Because Xander pines over her and she's like,
yeah, we're just friends.
And that's fine. Except even though he's always there for her, she's never there for him unless it's convenient for her. She's a good friend to Willow, but she treats Xander like dirt as the series progresses. Like when she was in college and when she had basically no friends, she was happy to catch up with him and spend time with him. But if Riley or someone better came along, Buffy was suddenly too busy for Xander.
So at least Faith is more direct about hurting Xander, while Buffy takes the longer, more painful route. Clearly Xander has a thing for Slayers. He's like, the first Slayer turned me down, the second Slayer wasn't interested, third time's a charm. But not for Xander, apparently.
When it comes to strength and agility and fighting chops, Buffy and Faith are evenly matched, but Faith is more aggressive. And although the show portrays that as a bad thing, I think it makes Faith a better Slayer than Buffy.
Yeah, on the show they make it pretty obvious that Buffy is the better fighter, because she became a Slayer first, so she has more experience fighting vampires. But Faith knows what Buffy doesn't. If you want to defeat your enemy, you have to think like them. And you have to be willing to cross lines you're not comfortable with.
And that's why Buffy comes off as self-righteous. It's fine for her to kill Ted, but when Faith accidentally kills a guy, suddenly she's public enemy number 1. Vampires and humans aren't that different. Sure, one sheds blood and the other doesn't, but at the end of the day, you destroyed a sentient life form. Just because the vampires turn to dust, Buffy doesn't feel bad about killing them. To her, they're like the dust bunnies she vacuums in the living room.
Buffy, you need to stop blaming the vampires for their bloodlust. All animals have to eat other creatures to survive. Imagine if the vampires wanted Buffy to stop eating tacos. She's from Southern California, so this would be virtually impossible for her.
Now, we're told that Buffy was super popular at her last school, but from what we see on the show, she's really unpopular at Sunnydale High. So that's another thing she and Faith have in common. They're both rejects.
Yeah, except Buffy really wants to fit in and be accepted. And Faith doesn't care what other people think about her. I know who I want to be like, and it's not Buffy.
Joss Whedon should have thought twice about bringing Faith on the show, because as soon as Faith arrived, Buffy lost her edge. Buffy became boring. As for Faith, I liked her when she first arrived, but it felt like she turned evil overnight. One week she was helping the group take out vampires, the next day she wakes up and suddenly she's pure Voldemort-level evil.
To me, Faith's very existence on the show is problematic. Because in season 1, Buffy dies for 5 minutes, and then Kendra Young is called to be the new Slayer. But then Buffy is resurrected for reasons that are never explained and still a mystery to me. And then Kendra and Buffy both continue slaying, like nothing even happened.
So the Slayer isn't even special anymore.
Exactly. The whole one girl in all the world spiel was basically a lie. I mean, who is the chosen one exactly?
Yeah, Faith shouldn't have been allowed to practice in the same jurisdiction as Buffy. Once she got her own watcher, they should have moved them somewhere else, like Mystic Falls, because that town has a serious vampire problem.
The intro should have been like, into every generation, some Slayers are born, a bunch of girls who gather in Sunnydale, the chosen ones, all of them wielding the strength and skill to fight the forces of darkness. All of them are the Slayer.
At least this version of the intro is honest.
There are so many problems created as a result of the writers not sticking to the one Slayer rule. Because Faith's Watcher is dead, and now there's a new one ready to step into the breach. Now, if there's only one Slayer in all the world, I think it's reasonable to assume there's only one Watcher. Maybe 1 or 2 backups, max. So how come there was this Watcher Faith originally had, plus her replacement Watcher, Wesley, and Giles? Why do they need a whole council of Watchers when there's only one Slayer? And who trained these people years in advance?
And why are the Watchers so old? I mean, I get it, you have your master-apprentice relationship. But how are they going to teach them how to fight when they're so close to retirement? The Watchers are probably going to throw out their backs when they're trying to teach them how to fight.
And that's exactly what happens to Giles. But back to Buffy and Faith. Who wins this throwdown, Tycoon?
Honestly, I think both of them lost this round. Faith acts too much like a vampire to be a Slayer, and Buffy's too desperate to be normal. She never embraces her Slayer power. It's just this big annoyance that gets in the way of the really exciting things in her life. Like dating Angel and getting her hair done.
So Joss Whedon wins, because he got us to watch 3 seasons of a show that didn't even make sense half the time. Because his witty dialogue is just that good.
That concludes BTVS Showdowns Episode 1, Buffy vs. Faith. Coming up next week, Spike and Angel go head-to-head in the battle for vampire supremacy. Hasta luego from the AniMoguls.